Hello there, my name is Scott Finnegan, and for the next 7 and hopefully longer minutes, I'll be talking to you about my final project topic. And what it was on space. It actually started with me looking at a TED Talk that just basically talked about mapping the universe. So, it's going to be some fun. Helping me out is a close friend of mine who's going to be working the camera and, asking me some questions so I can keep on topic, because I tend to ramble, and we can't have that, can we?
So first things first, why did you find the topic of space interesting?
Well, it's always interested me. Growing up, there were a lot of things that would happen. Like the news would talk about certain findings. Basically they'd be following Stephen Hawking and different scientists that were on his caliber, and talking about the findings and that. So I kind of was always around it. Like my grandfather really liked space too. He got me some constellation books growing up. He taught me some of the stars in the sky. Even my parents did. They still do sometimes now. I even got, for one of my birthdays, a telescope to help me see up into the stars. So, I've always had that little curiosity of it, because admittedly, it is kind of cool to look up at the sky and just wonder what's out there. The moon landing was awesome, and now, we're planning on going to Mars. Now, granted, whenever I think of Mars, I think of John Carter of Mars, the book series, but that's definitely not what they're going to be looking for, so.
Why should we research space?
Well, it's kind of like there's so much to know. It's so unknown that it'd be terrible to not look at it. Our ancestors even started. We found stuff dating back to, the Stone Age. They were able to make these discs to map out the stars so that way they knew where they were at times. And, if we stopped researching it, we'd basically be giving, previous generations of people, a disservice. All their research, all their knowledge that got passed down to us would just get lost, and that's not fair. People deserve to know what's out there.
What are a few popular research topics about space?
Well, most people would tell you about black holes, stars, and planets. We were able to discover a planet 50 million miles away. I know recently they were able to, apparently there's a black hole in our galaxy that was hidden in plain sight that's actually closer than you would have thought. Some scientists actually were able to discover more planets past Neptune that actually counted as planets. Sadly, my boy Pluto. But they were able to find more planets, and that's actually kind of cool, knowing that there's more planets than of except just, Uranus and Neptune.
What are some pros and cons of space exploration?
For the exploration part, there's not really any cons. The only cons are the obvious ones. It's dangerous. You can never truly prepare for what can happen. You have to always prepare for the worst a lot of times. But the pros are substantially infinite. It's you're going to learn something new. You may discover something. You're helping further humanity in some way, shape, or form. Whether it be knowledge or whether it be we now know what planet we can go to get away from some of the crap that we probably put into motion that's going to damage this place. But, for the exploration part. There's also the research part aspect of it. You can't have the exploration without the research. The research is what makes the exploration possible. With the research, that's what helps the exploration, figure out where they're going to go. So, it's there's pros and cons to that too. The pros are, you're able to start something where you're going to get backup for a certain mission. For example, they had to do a crap ton of research for how far apart the Earth and the Moon are when they were doing the moon landing all those years ago. And without that research, they wouldn't have been able to do the moon landing as smoothly as it did. It could have gone smoother, but they got pretty lucky with their stuff, and they were pretty smart with it too. But yeah, it's but then those pros were you're going to start something awesome, and then the cons of it is that you may be sitting there for months on end with nothing to send out there, because it takes time. And the thing is, the con is that you have to try and change it too. You can't just constantly stick with the same thing. an article I read said that they're trying to make their astronomical surveying thing, which is like basically how they map the stars and like where they put stuff so that they can constantly keep an eye on things. They're trying to change it so that way it's faster and produces more results. And the reason they want to do this is because they wanted to map a lot of the galaxy, almost all of it, by 2021. And it's 2020 now, so it's pretty cool to know that we may be able to know exactly what's out there in like a year.
Compared to like pop culture now, how is space portrayed in like movies and comics versus reality?
I mean, obviously, it's a bit dramatized. Like, there's certain movies that are pretty good with it. Like, admittedly, even though it was science fiction, The Martian did a pretty good job of, like, you know, explaining dangers of space, how, like, not everything can be accounted for. There were a lot of other movies, like, there was one about Apollo 13 and how, like, that whole thing went down. And granted, they added some things in here and there, but, you know, that. And then, you know, those are, like, accurate to a degree. And then there's, like, the entirely inaccurate ones, like Star Wars and Star Trek. Like, we're not going to find lightsaber-wielding Force people, you know, people are like, not Force people, but like, you know, we're not going to find like high-tech stuff out there. Probably. Like, that's science fiction. I mean, I know sometimes the science fiction aspect of it can ruin it for people. I know that while I was researching,